So it's not unusual for creative people to start their business a certain way and then get an opportunity to really level up to a larger client base, much bigger projects. But they deal with a lot of different issues moving from point A to point B. We're going to talk about that today with my guest, Amy Schromm. Amy, welcome.
Thank you. It's so good to be here.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Stick around, folks. Hey there, welcome to the Screen Lawyer Podcast. I'm Pete Salsic, the Screen Lawyer. And today I'm joined by my guest, Amy Schromm, a photographer, director, creator based in St. Louis, but also in Nashville, who has a really interesting story to tell about where she's been and where she's going. Amy, welcome to the program.
Hi, Pete. So great to be here.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. You and I have had some interesting conversations in the fairly recent past and sort of an ongoing basis about things that you've done in your career and then things that you're looking to do next. And I want to kind of get into that and let our audience find all about you and more about Amy Schromm. So give us a little background. Tell us about your professional career so far and what you're working on.
Yeah. So I am a photographer director. I've kind of worn a lot of hats, can do a lot of things. I started in the advertising agency. Mm-hmm. So started in the pre-press department. So I'm very technical. So I understand when you're shooting for print, for billboards, that type of thing.
Right.
I understand the printing process. Worked my way up at the advertising agency. Into producing, assisting. Back in that day, it kind of, the creative world when it came to photography was a little bit like, I don't want to sound mean, but a little bit like the health fiction of photographers. You kind of have to get in there and,
sure,
do what's needed for the brands and for the clients. But I worked in-house at an agency for 9 years.
Okay.
So I really understand internal workflows when it comes to advertising agencies and marketing agencies. And then after 9 years, I started my own thing. So I started freelancing, started partnering with other agencies, other production companies, et cetera, et cetera. And, we hit 2020 and then my work kind of molded into a lot of beverage brands because I was lucky enough to have a studio downtown and be a beverage stylist and my set stylist would be just us three. They're delivering us the product. We're shooting it. We're sending it remotely. So then I started getting more into that world. So I feel very grateful. In 2020, I was able to actually get more clients.
Which is not something everybody could say, right?
Right.
I was wondering when you said the beverage industry, if that's just because since everybody had to stay home, they were buying a lot more beverages. I do remember that being part of the pandemic. So
that's exactly right. Tequila sales went up, wine sales went up dramatically.
Right. So obviously during the pandemic, you were able to do certain things in part because of the facilities that you had and the team that you had. You were able to actually get busier. But after sort of 2022, when things started coming back, how did your business change or evolve?
Yeah, it's always evolving. And I feel like as a creative in my spot, there's not one right career path that is, we don't have a book that's like, okay, now this is next or this is next.
Yeah,
so
that's very true.
So everything, every job is completely different. So I could get hired by a production company out of LA or in New York, and I'm shooting a Peyton Manning billboard and, they're handling everything internally and I'm just in front of Peyton Manning and you get 5 seconds to shoot the billboard.
So in that setting, so let me just ask you, so just because we talk a lot about on the podcast, talking about the different contractual structures that all come together on any given production, right? So, and in your work, and whether it's a still photography campaign or a print campaign or a combination print and video or whatever it might be, there's typically some entity, a production company, whatever, that's sort of in charge of the overall deliverable to the client.
Correct.
And then there are teams that are built by that production company. So you might be hired on a job like that to come in and you've got this particular part of the production that's your responsibility, your professionalism. You would have an agreement that, between you and the production company typically, right? And you would just do that work. Is that sort of that category?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And a job like that, there's a lot of different layers. So from there, my estimate's going to the production company. The production company is going to the agency. The agency is going to the client.
Interesting. Okay.
But for those, I still have my post-production resources. So I still have a team underneath me. So I am still hiring freelancers.
Right.
So I'm still hiring retouchers that they have, the color profiles for all of the brand's assets. So in every scenario, there are a lot of different legal matters that I need to know. But it always looks different. Right.
That's a really good point that you just made. And it's something that we talk about a lot here also is like, for example, if you're contracted with the production company, let's go in the order. The brand may ultimately decide it wants to own the rights, the output, the copyrights, everything to the finished product. It communicates that ownership requirement to the agency. The agency engages the production company to put the whole thing together on a basis where it's going to be work for hire and it's going to travel through ultimately up to the brand. The production company hires you for your piece. That contract likely has work for hire language so that it can flow up. And then you hire your team of freelancers and you need to make sure that same right structure is in your agreements as they move all the way forward.
Correct. However, in all those scenarios, I have always held on to the copyright.
Okay, that's interesting. So tell me about that.
In my paperwork that I've sent to the production companies, it says, okay, you want to buy this out. So meaning you don't want to have to say, is this going to be point of sale? Is this going to be in a store? Is this going to be on web? This is going to be on a billboard. Right. This is going to be 1, 2, 3, 5 years. You want these images for an unlimited amount of time.
And in any kind of use, right? Complete ownership.
Any kind of use. And so if they want those, the brand is making money off of that IP, those photos. And so I am holding on to the copyright, but they're buying the usage for forever. But it still is Amy Schromm's copyright.
Right.
But
and
now,
so you're licensing that to.
I'm seeing a shift.
Interesting. So
I think that's a really good time to talk about this.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I wanted to cement like a certain point. So that structure that you're talking about, because I gave you that example before where it's just work for hire all the way through. But you're right. And particularly, I think this comes up more and more in photography often than almost any other part of this creative group, where it's more standard for photographers, particularly professionals like yourselves who are you are really established, that you own the copyright, and then you're licensing various types of usage in various territories, time. You may have engaged models that have agreed to certain usage over time. I mean, there can be any number of structures for participants that depend on the nature of the ultimate usage. And so you hold on to the copyright, but you grant whatever these rights are based on whatever they want. And then I would imagine there's various pricing tiers, right? There's certain, here's a 12 months. If you want to renew, it's just send me a check for this much and then written notice, or here's an unlimited use, whatever. But it's always with you granting a license to them, but you retain the copyright. But you said that's starting to change. Tell us about that.
I will fight for, which is why I'm here, because I will fight for photographers, especially those up and coming photographers.
Yeah, good. I think that's good advice. Yeah.
What was your question? I'm sorry.
Well, so how but you mentioned that's staring to change.
I'm seeing
or you're seeing that shift. Yeah, so tell me about that.
In the shift, I think I think there was a scare in the market and with AI, there's a lot of different things that have happened in the industry. I mean, even look in LA, and I feel like there's films coming back there, but the industry as a whole is massively shifting.
Right.
And so we have to move with the times, but we also have to keep in place certain legal structures that protect us and our creative IP.
Right.
So we're in this really big shift, and I don't feel like anybody really has the answer right now. So I am seeing that 2024 was a hard year. A lot of production companies can vouch for that. 2025 beginning was slow, and I travel all the time. So I'm getting, and what I tell people, my colleagues in St. Louis, it's not a St. Louis thing. This is a industry thing. I am seeing an upsurge now of productions, which is very exciting because from listening to your podcast, it makes me wonder when you were talking about AI and copyright laws and stuff like that. I think that people don't want to mess with it right now. Does that make sense? I
Very
think
much so.
everyone's going to stand still like, oh, AI is going to take all of our jobs.
Right.
Well, I'm using AI in workflows for like a director's pitches and stuff like that. I think there's a lot of usage for that down the road, but it's not there, and it's not there yet, and it's definitely not there in legal terms yet.
Right.
So,
no, you're absolutely right about that. I mean, I think we're waiting to see there beginning to be a little bit of movement on some of these lawsuits that have been filed around AP, or really more around the training and using copyrighted images. But there's also beginning to get some slow clarity on, like, for example, how much AI can you use in something and still create a copyright that can be licensed to someone else? And you're right. I think there's probably a lot of fear, but also opportunity. And people ultimately in that situation, they figure out how to deal with the uncertainty by putting it in the contract language. In other words, we're going to put some risk on you, or we're going to put some risk on us because of this uncertainty. But a good contract can do that.
Correct. And I'm learning more and more the power of the details, devils in the details.
Yes, it is.
But even talking to this brand owner I'm working with right now, even talking to him, it's a conversation of they want to own the copyright, so I'm hand-holding brands as well.
Sure.
But also the conversation of, I don't know what's going to happen with AI. If I hold the copyright, honestly, your brand's IP could be more protected, right? Like,
possibly.
I'm not sure. But
I mean, I think that's really interesting, and I haven't heard anybody mention it kind of in that way because so much for 100 years of production, let's just say, and copyright's been around longer than that. But the basic business model has depended on there being one copyright owner that controlled where the finished work went, to whom it went, how much money came in, and then they paid back everybody that they'd made promises to pay. Some version of that, right? And so, and up till now, that was the primary thing. And so that's why we either had work for hire language, or, for example, in the photography world, often this is very important, or any of the video production world, you want portfolio rights. Yes, I'm going to say to the brand, this Peyton Manning billboard, I can't, even though I took the picture, even though I may own the copyright, I can't use Peyton Manning for anything else. I can't use that for anything else. But I need the ability to show that as a part of my portfolio to show my work. In other words, hire me the next person. That can be achieved in a contract, either whether you hold the copyright or you assign it and get that license back, but you need that written license back in order to achieve the same thing. And you're mentioning now maybe you're owning it might actually protect it more than if it goes out in the brand and somebody there morphs it into something different. Interesting. Yeah, I haven't seen that, but you might be right.
Yeah, when I'm just thinking of the future of the brand, if I'm giving away this copyright, are the images protected? And that's something I'm kind of brainstorming too. That's something to talk to you about. Like, can AI now take my images of this very high-end luxury brand and replicate it for the competitor? I don't know.
Right. No, well, we know AI can do it. It's capable of it. It's not
Yeah.
legally, sort of permissible for some other brand to effectively use someone else's stuff. But how to protect and enforce that? And for a smaller business like yourself, do you want to be in the position of the one writing the cease and desist letters, or do you want the brand? My guess is that most of the time the brand thinks, hey, that's what I hired you all for.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They don't have a separate copyright enforcement division.
Nope.
Right? So maybe you're right. Maybe it comes back on creators like yourselves to have a better protocol for filing copyright registrations, enforcing cease and desist letters, things like that. I hadn't really thought about that, but you might be absolutely right in your industry.
Yeah, and I think it's protecting the brand as well. And so
Sure.
talking to the owner of the brand, it kind of, I mean, he's very understandable. So that kind of lit a light in his brain too. It's like, oh, okay, I can see your point in that way.
Yeah.
But I always say it's levers. So, when you're estimating something, there's so many variables. So there's exclusive. So if a brand comes to you with a job, and I always try to get some sort of budget, because
Sure.
we're always triple bidding. It's a competitive market.
Right.
I don't want to scare you with the numbers, but I also don't want to underbid. Like, I know the value of these things, right?
Right.
So,
and you have a brand. You've talked about the brand, and we've been referring to it as the understood ultimate purchaser of your services. But Amy Schromm has a brand.
Sure.
Right. I mean, and part of your brand is I'm the one you hire when you have a really big, important job, and therefore these are my terms. Right. Isn't that kind of part of the struggle that you have to sometimes say no, even though you kind of like the work, but they're not willing to pay you what it's worth?
Right. And upholding the quality behind if
Sure.
my name is on something.
Right.
So
right. Absolutely.
There's a lot of different factors there.
Absolutely.
So, okay, you're going to hire me. I come with sometimes a team. So,
right.
There's certain ways for things to be done. Is the production design there? Is the wardrobe there? There's a lot of things to look at. And I will myself make sure it's done if nobody else will.
Right.
That's how much I care about my brand and my name on things.
But as you start to bid bigger and bigger jobs, you need to make sure that you are accounting for those expenses that you're going to incur no matter what, and put them into your bid. Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the levers that I'm talking about, it's, if a brand has, okay, we only have this much. What can you do for this much? That is much. Okay. Is it exclusive or is this non-exclusive?
Right. Right.
That's the thing in your contract. Am I shooting this, but I can sell it to other people? Or do you really just want it for yourself?
Right.
And this is something that photographers need to understand,
Yeah.
Is it 1, 2, 3, 5 years? Is this local St. Louis?
Right.
Is this regional Midwest? Is this United States? Is this national, global? And the thing is, they're hiring you for your eye, for your creative, for your expertise. And they are making profit off of what you are creating.
Yeah.
And that's the purpose. They are elevating. And so it does not make sense to just give everything away when it's actually multiplying their value.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I really try to educate photographers or even other production companies that are like, hey, can you do it for this much?
Right.
Who is doing a billboard of a celebrity and a freaking dog for this much?
Right.
Like, from $1 billion company.
Right.
I talk about this all the time. I actually made an Instagram post and I said, who is saying yes to this? I got a call. Celebrity shoot with a high-end dog brand. Amy, can you shoot this? We know you can do it. This is the budget. And my jaw dropped.
Right.
I'm like, I need a Digitech. I need a team. I need my retouchers. I know the history of this brand. Who is saying yes? And so I actually made a post on Instagram and I said, guys, we have to, I know we're scared in the industry right now.
Right.
People are just working. They're so grateful to get the work.
Right.
But we need to be a little bit more transparent about what industry standard is for pricing.
Yeah.
And I had so many creatives say, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like my competitors, they were saying, thank you so much.
Right.
At all times.
Right.
I go, I'm making more money sometimes from the mom and pop business down the street
Right.
and this $1 billion brand that's calling me. And so that's what I was seeing in early 2025.
Right. That's
I
really
haven't started
interesting. Yeah.
yet, thank goodness. But
Well, that's really interesting, and I think you. I loved you sort of describing how you even have gone out a little bit to make it a mission of yours, right? Part of it is, you want to know who's saying this because you want to find out. I think maybe a little bit like, am I still right? Like, has the whole world changed?
Definitely.
Or no, actually, I'm not right. This is still the way things need to be done, and you're an advocate, and I love that, and I appreciate you taking the time to. Talk us through. We could probably. I know there's hours more we could get into, but I want to. I know you gotta go. You gotta go. No, that's good. No, I love it. Because I think it takes professionals to understand the business, understand the best they can. How copyright works, AI things are changing, et cetera. But ultimately. If you understand the value of your work and the necessity, why they hire you, for example, then you need to understand the terms and stick to them the best you can. And I think that's terrific. I want to ask you another question completely. You mentioned earlier that you had listened to the podcast before, which, first of all, thank you. Everybody in the world, be like Amy. But there's a question that I always ask my guests, or try to remember to always ask my guests towards the end of our chat, and that is, what's on your screen? And you may know that sometimes that's like, what are you watching on TV at the end of the night? What's your favorite movie? What are you working on right now? What's on your phone that you can't stop your thumb? What's on Amy Schromm's screen?
A lot of things, but my head is really in the creative of this current project I'm working on, which is very European, Italian. I'm trying to immerse myself in the Midwest in Italian culture.
Good.
Because I'm just, I want to fly to Italy and live there.
Yeah.
But it's currently just Italian inspiration.
And isn't it amazing
that's where my head is for this client right now? What do
you say? Does that take you to let Sicily culture on YouTube and just follow wherever it goes?
Oh,
and
yeah.
Watch this
I on YouTube. I watch old films. I have a lot of different tabs open, but that's a good question.
Well, yeah, and I think that's great. Sometimes people will say, "Oh, here's a movie" or whatever, but more and more people are saying, "I'm on YouTube." It's really fascinating. Somebody recently said that they read that something like 45% of everybody in the United States watches YouTube from their primary source of where they get. Now, within that, there's a million different things you can watch. But I've heard people say, here's how I learn how to get better as a musician. Here's how I get in for you. I get inspiration for my next creativity because there's this universe on a screen that gives me access to all these other versions of that. And that's pretty wild. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And there's something about short formatted films or like little like 10 to 15, 20 minutes that we're kind of in this culture of consuming things quickly,
Yeah, absolutely.
So kind of speaks to that.
Absolutely. Well, Amy, listen, this has been fantastic. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us on the podcast today. I'm really interested to hear how things progress. Hope you'll let us know when you're in Italy and whether or not you're, having visitors. But it sounds really cool, and I'm excited about particularly your approach to protecting certainly your brand, but also educating your profession. Right. Mm-hmm. I do think there's a leadership role. Not everybody wants to do it, but your insistence on doing it will certainly, in my view, help your business, but also is a nice guide for others who may want to figure out, well, how can I do that? How can I get into this world? Absolutely. And that's really cool. I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Absolutely. And if I can say one last thing.
Sure, of course.
The more I've just been kind of digging into advertising, marketing agencies, production companies, That's one way of looking at working, but I want everybody to feel very hopeful that
Yeah.
brands are doing well, right? So brands, we're all working for the same thing, and that is telling the brand story.
Right.
And so it may look different. There might be a different way to kind of approach it, and we're all figuring it out.
Yeah.
But we're really here to tell impactful brand stories and upholding that.
Yeah.
So
that's really well said. And you're right. And that's not going away.
No, that's not
right?
going away.
The way
That's so cool.
the way the money flows, the way the contracts flow, the way the rights structure changes might, but the basic principle is brands will need to continue to tell their stories, perhaps even more than they ever have before. And that's where Amy Schromm comes in as a storyteller for brands. Is that a good? That sounds good. Yes. All right. Good. Well, I'll license that to you so you can use that.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Amy, thanks so much. And folks, if you've enjoyed this conversation today, I hope you have, please check out Amy. How can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Amy Schromm, just my name, or my website, www.amyschromm.com.
All right. And we will put that in the liner notes and make sure people can find you. And folks, if you've enjoyed this amyschromm.com. Let's say that again, everybody, amyschromm.com. Folks, if you've enjoyed this today, check us out wherever you get your podcasts. You can find and follow us. We're everywhere podcasts exist. And if you like what you see on YouTube, hit that like and subscribe button right down somewhere down there and follow us so you'll always get the latest episode. And you can always find us at thescreenlawyer.com. Amy, thanks again.
Thank you so much, Pete. Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care, everybody.